So privacy is an increasing concern for people going through Connecticut divorces. Honestly, I think it's an increasing concern for people not going through Connecticut divorces, but it's particularly a concern during a divorce. So how do you keep things private? Well, to start with, I'd like people to know that financial records, financial affidavits specifically, are documents that you have to submit to the court throughout your divorce. And those financial affidavits are already kept private. So that's something that has been pre-addressed by Connecticut. Those things aren't coming into the public. However, if you have a heavily litigated divorce, a high conflict divorce where you're going to court a lot to have the court make decisions for you, then there's a chance that some things that you'd rather keep private might be in the public record. And if it's in the public record, well, then someone can go out and find it. They could theoretically request a recording of your hearing, a transcript from your hearing. I mean, you have to do some work. It's not going to necessarily just be on the internet, but someone with time and who's paying attention can get information. But again, this is really when things are publicly stated or publicly filed. So where does that leave you? Well, with a lot of options, frankly. The more decisions you can reach outside of court and not be talking about in open court where there's a transcript and all of that, that is a great way to keep things private. By the way, having a prenuptial agreement before you divorce, or actually even a postnuptial agreement that you enter into after you're married, those kind of documents can tend to create more private divorces because so much is pre-decided that there's less to litigate and less to actually ask a judge to decide. So that's another tip if you want to keep things private. If you can't reach agreements through negotiations, through mediation, through collaborative divorce, through some of the other ADR tools we use to help people find some common ground to make a decision outside of court, well, there are things like confidentiality agreements and things like that that we can do to try and protect certain things, sensitive business information and things like that. But all in all, what you want to do is, as much as possible, your privacy goals are furthered by making decisions and reaching agreements yourselves with the help of your lawyers and advisors instead of asking a judge to decide. That's when things don't stay private. In a lot of cases, people are less sensitive about the fact that they're getting divorced and more sensitive about keeping their private financial things private. So let's talk a little bit more about some of the tools we have for that to happen. The first thing I like to share is that a financial affidavit is one of the most common documents in a divorce. They're part of every divorce, and depending on how long your divorce continues, you may submit one or two, or you may submit several more over the course of the divorce. You might be updating them. All those financial affidavits are kept private as a matter of default. So if I went to court and I asked for your financial affidavit and I had nothing to do with the divorce, I wasn't the lawyer on it, I wasn't a party to it, the court won't give me that financial affidavit. So the core document stays private. There are other things like sensitive business information that implicates other people, trust structures that implicate other people. It may be possible to put some confidentiality protections around that via agreements that you reach with the other side. There are things that you can request that the court file under seal so that it's kept private and isn't in your public court record. There are a lot of things that we can do to keep things private, including financial information, but my single biggest piece of advice is that if there is something very, very sensitive in your finances that it's very important to you not become part of the public record, then you're going to want to do everything that you can to figure out a way to reach agreements outside of court so that you're not there in open court having people testify about these issues. Another thing that people who prioritize their privacy care about is what goes on social media and on the internet in the context of what's happening in their divorce. So there are a few things I want to talk about with this. First, there are ways to go to the court and ask that the other side not talk about things involving the divorce on social media or publicly. The problem with those is usually something bad has already happened and we're trying to kind of unring the bell as we go through the process to get everyone to keep their divorce off of social media. What I will tell you is that it's not a good idea to put your divorce into the court of public opinion. I have seen it backfire pretty spectacularly. So when you're thinking about your own actions in the divorce, keep this stuff private. It can have negative impacts on your divorce itself. It can also have negative impacts on your relationship with your former spouse and your ability to treat each other well during the divorce. And if you have children, co-parent in the future. So just keep it offline. The other thing that I would think about is make sure that your passwords are your own and that other people don't have access to your social media. You don't want to be one of those stories where an angry ex posts as though they were you, something that you'd rather not have disclosed, whether it's true or not. So be mindful and guide your own behavior in a way that you would want to be treated. And if this is a real concern, like you are actually afraid that there's a high likelihood that some things are going to show up in social media that are inappropriate or problematic or just you don't want to see, make sure you share that with your lawyer, because if there are tools we can use to avoid that entirely or at least stop it once it starts, that's important information for your lawyer to have. One of the reasons I like it when people meet with us before they pick their divorce process is it gives us a chance, especially during our goals and planning conference, to really find out what matters to them. And when I say that, I mean not only what matters to them for their future, which is probably the most important thing, but also what they want for their divorce process itself. So for example, you may be someone who really, really wants to keep things private, or you may be someone who would like to keep things private, but it's not your top concern. What you actually want is to get through the divorce as quickly as you can to get onto your future. Or you may be someone whose focus is really like the outcome of the divorce itself, and you're less concerned about how long it takes to get there or how private things are kept on your way to that. So lawyers can help you from the very beginning of your divorce, making sure that if, for example, privacy is one of your main concerns, that they guide you to a process to resolve your divorce that's most likely to support that goal. So, for example, let's say that for a variety of other reasons, you and your spouse are both amenable to mediation or collaborative divorce, and you're good candidates for it, because you're open and honest and you're both going to fully participate. And there are a lot of good signs that this is a good process for you. One of the divorce alternatives, mediation or collaborative divorce. Well, that tends to set you up to achieve your privacy goals, because those are both divorce structures that keep things out of court and off the public record. If you litigate, it is also possible to keep things private. You can still reach agreements in litigation. There are other things like confidentiality agreements, or we can file certain things under seal with the court to keep things private. But From the beginning of your divorce, if privacy is an issue and really a priority for you, make sure that you're sharing that with the law firm you're working with so that we can start designing a divorce from process through negotiations, through strategy on outcomes that supports that privacy goal. If you have questions about privacy and divorce and how it might play out for you, please give us a call.